Ambassador Vex'tarin adjusted his ceremonial breathing apparatus for the third time in 10 minutes. The conference chamber aboard the neutral station Harmony's Edge hummed with the collective anxiety of 12 different species, all pretending they weren't about to witness the most important diplomatic gathering in galactic history. "Nervous?" asked his aide, Krillmoth, her 4 eyes blinking in sequence. "Me? Nervous about meeting the humans?" Vex'tarin's mandibles clicked in what passed for laughter among his kind. "Please. They're barely out of their stone age. What's the worst they could do? Throw rocks at us?" Oh, how wrong he was about to be. The humans had been discovered exactly 18 standard months ago, when their primitive radio signals finally reached far enough into space to ping our monitoring stations. The Galactic Council had nearly laughed themselves into respiratory failure when they learned these bipedal mammals had only just figured out faster-than-light communication. Most species achieved that particular milestone around the same time they learned to make fire, but here they were, requesting membership in the Council. The audacity was, well, it was almost admirable. Almost. "Attention all delegates," the station's AI announced in its annoyingly cheerful tone. "The human delegation has arrived and is requesting permission to board." Vex'tarin straightened his ceremonial robes. As the Council's senior ambassador for primitive species integration, this was his show. He'd done this dance before with dozens of barely evolved civilizations. The routine was simple: let them make their little speech, politely decline their membership application, offer them a few trade agreements to keep them happy, and send them on their way. Easy credits. "Grant them permission," he said, trying not to sound too bored. The chamber fell silent as the airlock cycled. 12 species representing the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy turned their various optical organs toward the entrance, expecting to see the usual parade of nervous primitives shuffling in with their crude translation devices and outdated diplomatic protocols. Instead, 3 humans walked in like they owned the place. The first was a tall male with graying hair and eyes that seemed to catalog every detail of the room in seconds. The second was a shorter female with dark skin and an expression that suggested she found something privately amusing. The third was why everything went sideways. She couldn't have been more than 30 standard years old by human reckoning, with auburn hair pulled back in a simple ponytail and wearing what appeared to be a basic military uniform. Nothing special. Nothing threatening. Just another primitive biped who probably still believed in magical sky wizards and thought faster-than-light travel involved fairy dust. "Welcome to Harmony's Edge," Vex'tarin began, his translator rendering his words in perfect galactic standard. "I am Ambassador Vex'tarin, representing the Galactic Council. We are honored to meet with representatives of the human species." The older male stepped forward. "Admiral Marcus Webb, representing Earth's United Defense Coalition. This is Dr. Elena Vasquez, our chief xenobiologist, and Lieutenant Colonel Jessica Stone, our military attaché." Vex'tarin nodded politely while internally rolling all 4 of his eyes. Military attaché? What did they think this was, a war council? These mammals really had no idea how civilized diplomacy worked. "Please, be seated," he gestured to the designated human section, which featured furniture hastily adjusted to accommodate their peculiar bipedal anatomy. "Let us begin with the formalities. You have requested membership in the Galactic Council. While we appreciate your enthusiasm, I'm afraid there are certain technological and social requirements that must be met." Dr. Vasquez leaned back in her chair with a smile that made Vex'tarin's secondary stomach lurch. "Oh, we're aware of the requirements, Ambassador. Faster-than-light travel, check. Unified planetary government, check. Advanced energy manipulation, check. Peaceful resolution of internal conflicts for at least 2 centuries, well, that one's more recent, but check. Yes, well," Vex'tarin's mandibles clicked nervously. "Your species has certainly made remarkable progress in a short time. However, the Council has concerns about your technological development curve. It's been rather explosive. Explosive, Lieutenant Colonel Stone repeated, speaking for the first time. Her voice was flat, emotionless. Interesting choice of words. Something in her tone made the Zalarian delegate unconsciously shift his bulk away from the human section. Even Krillmotha's fur stood on end. Admiral Webb continued as if nothing had happened. We understand the Council's hesitation. Humans have a reputation for being volatile. But we've learned from our mistakes. We've grown. Indeed, Vex'tarin said, pulling up his prepared talking points on his tablet. This was going exactly as planned. However, our xenopsychology experts have reviewed human history and identified several concerning patterns. Your species seems to have an unusual relationship with conflict. Where most civilizations develop beyond warfare once they achieve spaceflight, humans appear to have refined it. Dr. Vasquez chuckled. You could say that. Furthermore, Vex'tarin continued, warming to his subject, your technological development has been concerningly rapid. Most species require millennia to advance from chemical rockets to faster-than-light travel. Humans accomplished this in less than a century. This suggests either outside interference or a dangerously unstable approach to technological development. Or, Lieutenant Colonel Stone said quietly, we're just better at it than you expected. The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Vex'tarin cleared his throat. Yes, well, regardless of the reasons, the Council has voted on your application. While we cannot offer full membership at this time, we are prepared to extend associate status, which includes limited trading rights and access to our educational databases. He delivered this speech hundreds of times to hundreds of disappointed primitive species. Usually, this was where they started begging or making increasingly desperate counteroffers. Sometimes they cried. The really primitive ones occasionally tried to offer him tribute. Admiral Webb simply nodded. I see. And this decision is final? I'm afraid so. The vote was unanimous. That wasn't entirely true. The vote had been 11-1, with only the Terran-sympathetic Keth Mori delegate arguing for reconsideration. But the humans didn't need to know that. Well, Dr. Vasquez said, standing and smoothing her jacket, that's disappointing. We had hoped for a more productive relationship. Vex'tarin relaxed. This was going better than expected. No tears, no begging, no dramatic declarations of vengeance. Just polite disappointment and a graceful exit. Perhaps humans were more civilized than their reputation suggested. Then Lieutenant Colonel Stone stood up, and everything changed. She didn't say anything at first. Didn't need to. The way she moved was like watching a predator wake up from a nap. Every delegate in the chamber suddenly remembered that. Humans had evolved as persistence hunters, and something deep in their lizard brains started screaming warnings. Ambassador Vex'tarin, she said, her voice still perfectly calm, before we accept your generous offer of associate status, I think there's something you should know about humans. Vex'tarin's breathing apparatus wheezed. And what might that be? Stone smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of something with sharp teeth that had just remembered it was hungry. We're really, really good at holding grudges. The silence that followed was so complete that Vex'tarin could hear his own cardiac rhythm hammering against his chest plates. Around the chamber, 12 of the galaxy's most advanced species suddenly found themselves wondering if maybe, just maybe, they had miscalculated something important about these particular primitives. Admiral Webb sighed. Jessica, you're scaring them. Good, she replied, never taking her eyes off Vex'tarin. They should be scared. Dr. Vasquez consulted her tablet with the casual air of someone checking the weather. Ambassador, are you familiar with the concept of mutually assured destruction? Vex'tarin's translator struggled with the phrase for several seconds before settling on something approximating, everyone dies together. His secondary stomach performed a complicated loop. Because, Dr. Vasquez continued conversationally, it's a rather uniquely human concept. Most species, when they develop weapons capable of destroying their own planet, have the good sense to step back from the brink. Humans? We built more weapons. Lots more. Then we pointed them at each other for 50 years just to see who would blink first. Spoiler alert, Lieutenant Colonel Stone added helpfully. Nobody blinked. Now, Admiral Webb said, standing as well, you might be wondering why we're telling you this. After all, we passed all your psychological evaluations. We demonstrated that we've moved beyond our warlike past. We've achieved internal peace and unity. Vex'tarin nodded frantically. That was exactly what their reports had said. What the reports didn't mention, Dr. Vasquez said, her smile growing wider, is how we achieved that peace. The Galactic Council was about to learn a very important lesson about humans. When they say they've put their violent past behind them, they don't mean they've forgotten how to be violent. They just mean they've gotten much better at it. Vex'tarin's breathing apparatus made a sound like a dying swamp creature. What do you mean, how you achieved peace? Lieutenant Colonel Stone walked slowly around the conference table, her footsteps echoing in the suddenly silent chamber. Every delegate tracked her movement like prey animals watching a stalking cat. You see, Ambassador, she said conversationally, humans have this wonderful ability to unite against a common threat. For most of our history, that threat was each other. Wars, genocides, nuclear standoffs, we were really quite good at finding reasons to kill one another. Dr. Vasquez nodded cheerfully. Terrifyingly good, actually. We once had a war that lasted 100 years over who got to sit on a fancy chair. But then, Admiral Webb continued, something interesting happened. We started looking up at the stars and asking ourselves a very important question: what if we're not alone? The Kethmori delegate's gill slits fluttered nervously. But first contact protocols clearly state that primitive species should be observed for cultural development before. Oh, you observed us, Stone interrupted, stopping directly behind Vex'tarin's chair. For 300 years, according to our intelligence reports. 300 years of watching us blow each other up, categorizing us as aggressive primitives, and placing bets on when we'd make ourselves extinct. Vex'tarin's 4 eyes widened. How did you? Those observations were classified at the highest levels. Dr. Vasquez tapped her tablet. Funny thing about humans, Ambassador. We're really good at finding things out. Especially things people don't want us to know. Did you know your undetectable observation posts have been broadcasting on frequencies we've been monitoring for the past 50 years? Impossible, the Zalarian delegate rumbled. Our stealth technology is centuries ahead of anything these mammals could what? Stone asked sweetly. Detect? Decode? Reverse engineer? She reached into her jacket and pulled out a small device that made every alien in the room freeze. Recognize this? It was a Galactic Council standard observation probe, but it had been modified significantly. What had once been a sleek, invisible monitoring device now looked like it had been taken apart by an enthusiastic child and put back together with spare parts and spite. That's one of our Mark 7 surveillance drones, Krillmoth whispered. How did you capture it? Easy. Reprogram it? Took a weekend. Turn it into a two-way communication device that's been feeding us Council intelligence for the past decade? Stone shrugged. Tuesday afternoon project. Admiral Webb smiled apologetically. Humans have this terrible habit of taking things apart to see how they work. Usually, we can put them back together. Sometimes, we make improvements. Improvements? Vex'tarin squeaked. Dr. Vasquez stood and walked to the chamber's main display screen. Allow me to demonstrate. Computer, display file designation, peace through superior firepower. The screen flickered to life, showing what appeared to be a star map of the local galactic sector. Innocent enough, until the red dots started appearing. Hundreds of them. Then thousands. Each red dot represents a human military installation, Dr. Vasquez explained helpfully. Bases, defensive platforms, weapon emplacements, shipyards, that sort of thing. The map was covered in red dots. There were more human military installations in this sector than some species had total settlements. Now, the interesting part, Stone continued, is that according to your intelligence reports, humans have a small, primitive fleet of maybe a few hundred ships. Chemical rockets, basic laser weapons, that kind of adorable nonsense. The display zoomed in on one particular system, showing a massive orbital construction facility that definitely hadn't been there in the Council's last intelligence update. Turns out, Admiral Webb said with that same apologetic smile, we're also really good at hiding things. Vex'tarin felt his secondary heart stop beating entirely. How many ships do you actually have? Enough, Stone replied simply. But your technological development. You've barely achieved faster-than-light travel. Dr. Vasquez laughed, a sound that somehow managed to be both cheerful and terrifying. Oh, Ambassador. You really don't understand how humans work, do you? We didn't develop faster-than-light travel. We stole it. Stole it? From you. Well, technically from the Keth Mori, but they got it from you originally. Amazing what you can learn when you've been intercepting communications for 50 years and have entire teams of engineers whose only job is to figure out how alien technology works. The Keth Mori delegate made a sound like air escaping from a punctured lung. The missing research data from our archives, missing is such an ugly word, Admiral Webb said. We prefer liberated for the greater good of galactic peace. Which brings us to the real reason we're here. Stone returned to her seat, but somehow managed to make sitting down look threatening. You see, we didn't come here begging for membership in your little club. We came here to inform you that Earth is now a galactic power whether you like it or not. That's impossible, Vex'tarin protested. Your species lacks the infrastructure, the experience, the what? The patience to spend millennia slowly developing technology when we can just figure out yours in a few decades? Dr. Vasquez's tablet chimed, and she glanced at it with satisfaction. Oh, good. The demonstration is ready. What demonstration? Admiral Webb checked his chronometer. In approximately 30 seconds, every Council military installation within 50 light years is going to receive a very interesting message. You wouldn't dare attack Council forces. Attack? Stone looked genuinely offended. Ambassador, we're not barbarians. We're just going to say hello. The chamber's emergency communication system suddenly activated, filling the air with panicked transmissions from across the sector. Council Base Alpha 7 to Harmony's edge. Unknown human vessels just appeared in our system. They're broadcasting our own security codes. Fleet Command Zeta reporting massive human fleet Decloak event. Admiral, they have ships we've never seen before. Technology readings are off the charts. This is Defense Platform Gamma 12. The humans just transmitted our complete tactical database back to us with corrections. How did they? What did they? Admiral, they know everything. Admiral Webb gestured for silence, and somehow, impossibly, the transmission stopped. Thank you. That will be all. The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of Vex'tarin's labored breathing and the quiet whimpering of the Arctonian delegate. Now then, Dr. Vasquez said brightly, let's talk about this associate membership offer. It's quite generous, really, but we have a counter-proposal. Stone leaned forward, her smile razor-sharp. Full Council membership, effective immediately. Permanent seat on the Security Council. And a formal apology for 3 centuries of unauthorized surveillance. And if we refuse? Vex'tarin managed to whisper, Admiral Webb's expression never changed. Then you'll discover that humans are much better at war than we are at peace. But you said you'd achieved peace. That you'd moved beyond your violent past. Oh, we have, Dr. Vasquez assured him. We achieved perfect planetary peace the moment we realized there were bigger fish in the galaxy. Nothing unites humanity like a good external threat. External threat? Stone's smile widened. You, Ambassador. All of you. The moment we discovered you'd been watching us, cataloging us, treating us like lab rats, well, let's just say it gave us all something to focus on besides killing each other. So, Admiral Webb concluded, what's it going to be? Welcome us as equals, or learn why every species in the galaxy that's ever gone to war with humans has either surrendered, died, or joined us? Vex'tarin looked around the chamber at his fellow delegates. The Zalarian was vibrating with fear. The Kethmori had turned 3 different shades of pale. The Arctonians appeared to be praying to their various deities, and the humans? The humans sat there looking perfectly reasonable, perfectly calm, and perfectly terrifying. I'll need to contact the full council, Vex'tarin stammered. Of course, Dr. Vasquez said graciously. Take all the time you need. We'll wait. Stone checked her chronometer. But not too long. Our fleet commanders get antsy when they have to sit still for extended periods. And nobody wants to see antsy human military commanders. As if summoned by her words, the chamber's communication system crackled to life once more. Human fleet command to diplomatic vessel. All task forces are in position and awaiting orders. Shall we proceed with operation, knock knock? Admiral Webb touched his communications badge. Negative, Fleet Command. Maintain position and await further instructions. Copy that, Admiral. We'll just sit here. Quietly. With our entirely peaceful but extremely numerous and heavily armed ships. The transmission ended, leaving behind a silence so profound that Vex'tarin wondered if he'd gone deaf. Finally, Dr. Vasquez spoke. You know, Ambassador, there's something beautiful about a species that can unite in the face of adversity. It brings out the best in us. Our creativity, our ingenuity, our unstoppable determination to succeed no matter what the odds. She paused, letting that sink in. Just imagine what we could accomplish if we were all working together instead of against each other. Lieutenant Colonel Stone stood up one more time, and this time, her smile was genuinely warm. Welcome to the Galactic Council, humanity. We're going to fit right in. And as Vex'tarin reached for his emergency communication device to contact the full council with their unanimous recommendation for immediate human membership, he couldn't help but think that the galaxy was about to become a much more interesting place. Whether that was good or bad remained to be seen, but one thing was certain, nobody was ever going to underestimate humans again.